What happens when the structure that is carrying the blood, a blood vessel, is damaged? Well, we have to remember that the blood vessel is surrounded by an endothelium. And let's put a break in that endothelium sort of here. Like so. Okay. Now, deep to that endothelium is going to be some connective tissue, which has collagen fibers in it. And then deep to that is going to be smooth muscle. Okay. Now, under normal conditions, these endothelial cells are going to release something called nitric oxide. So they are going to release nitric oxide, and that prevents the formation of clots. Okay, so under normal conditions, these endothelial cells are going to release that nitric oxide. So when this blood vessel here is sort of ruptured, a couple of things happen. All right, so the first thing that happens is that this collagen tissue that is deep to the endothelium, this collagen tissue gets exposed to the blood. So a blood cell sort of coming down, right, or blood coming down, right, comes down here, leaks into here, and it gets exposed to that collagen tissue, right? The other thing that is going to happen is when these endothelial cells are damaged, they are going to release something known as factor 3. Okay, and so each of these events, the exposure of collagen to the blood and the plasma, and the release of factor 3 start this coagulation or clotting cascade. Right? So this mechanism here, so the exposure of collagen, we'll say exposure of collagen. This is known as the intrinsic pathway, also known as the contact pathway. Right? The release of factor 3 from the endothelial cells, this is known as the extrinsic pathway. And they're both going to lead to this sort of coagulation or the formation of a clot. Now, they are going to start a signal transduction cascade where a bunch of things are going to happen, right? But both of these are essentially going to lead to something called factor 10 getting converted over to active form of factor 10. All right? So this also initiates a positive feedback where that active 10 comes back up here and sort of stimulates this extrinsic pathway. Okay? So what active 10 then is going to do, that active factor 10, what it will do is it will come down here and it will take a molecule known as prothrombin and it converts it into thrombin. Okay? Now thrombin is also going to have a positive feedback loop with the intrinsic pathway here. Right? Now thrombin, once it is activated, thrombin will come down and it will take a molecule of fibrinogen, which is an inactive enzyme, and it will convert it into its active form, which is fibrin. Right? And this fibrin essentially creates cross-linked fibers. or cross linkage of the fibers. Okay? And so it creates this mesh network. Right? So when we get this exposure of the blood cells to the collagen and towards that factor 3, what it's going to do is it's going to take platelets. We're going to draw these in red little circles, right? It will take the platelets, right, and it will activate them. So as these platelets come in, they're going to bind to this collagen, this exposed collagen, and they're going to bind in themselves, and they are going to form this nice little platelet plug. All right, and so when they form this platelet plug, then they are going to activate this coagulation cascade, both through the intrinsic and extrinsic pathways. And then once you get sort of this cross-link of fibers laying over top of it, right, that creates what we call the clot, which is also known as a thrombus.